Hey there, everybody. I'm here with a triple Journey into Nyx draft that we are going to be doing here on behalf of MTG Madness. We are going to be in for some fun here. We already have Foiled Deicide and Temple of Malady to start off pack one. Noteworthy cards out of this pack would be Laguna Band Trailblazer, Okar, Dryads, Satyr Hoplite Grim Guardian, Solidarity of Heroes, one of my favorites, but however, Deicide is also fairly good. Temple of Malady is worth a little bit. It's worth about, what, 6 or 7 tickets, something like that. I'm not entirely sure how much a foiled Deicide's worth off the top of my head. However, I think I'm inclined to actually take that. Deicide is pretty good. It is enchant removal at 2 mana at an instant speed, and it hits a lot of cards in this triple journey format. Alright, now here we have Golden Hind, we have Bloodcrazed Hoplite, Resco Swiftclaw, Magma Spray, Font of Fortunes, Skyspear Cavalry, Gnarled Scarhide, and Dictative Krufix, which I actually have played before in green-blue enchantments, taking advantage of Thassa's Devourer, and the card's actually pretty sweet. Here, I am pretty tempted to take this Bloodcrazed Hoplite. However, if I do take Magma Spray, it is going to choke off red a little bit just because the only other red card that was in our first pack was the Satyr Hoplite. So the choice in red would either be to take Rawlik or Font of Ire. White, if we let Resco Swiftclaw go, then somebody could go Laguna Band Trailblazer or Resco Swiftclaw. There wasn't really anything massive in black that was going around, I don't think. So for me, it's Gnarled Scarhide, Resco Swiftclaw, or Bloodcrazed Hoplite. Usually, I think I would take the Bloodcrazed Hoplite, even though I'm going for 2 colors. I really like the card. So again, we have Bloodcrazed Hoplite, and it's just a perfect card that you can build around. Phalanx Formation is also fairly good in white. It's a card that is very good at winning games unexpectedly, or even just manipulating combat math unexpectedly. Again, we see another Magma Spray, which could be troublesome if we keep on passing way too many of those. However, at a certain point in time, we are just going to want to get a little bit greedy, and I think just from the start of this, I want to force something like black-white heroic here. Golden Hind, again, just really great card, but I think if anything, I would grab the Bloodcrazed Hoplite. The fact that this card is a very easy way to counteract opposing heroic is pretty important, and the card tends to be just so backbreaking in a lot of different situations. Here we have Cruel Feeding, a Crone Mastiff, or Squelching Leeches that I'm considering taking. Sigil Starfish is very good in blue, especially on turn 2, and then from there you get to manipulate how your draws are going to be conducted, either at the end of your opponent's turn or at the beginning of your upkeep before you draw. However, I think for me, in this pack, it's probably either Cruel Feeding or Squelching Leeches, and I like Squelching Leeches a lot. Maybe we can even go, like, just mono black or something like that. Here, a Crone Linebreaker is pretty sweet. Spite of Mogus, I don't think I've ever had that card be relevant for me. I've drafted it quite a few times, but I don't think cohesively the card has ever ended up being playable for me. That might just be because there isn't really this massive abundance of instants and sorceries that just kind of perpetuate you excelling yourself ahead. I mean, the block is very enchantment heavy. It's meant to be that. It's an enchantment matters type block. And this set is no different than the previous two. Do we take another Bloodcrazed Hoplite? I think why not? If they're being passed to us, then we're pretty much just okay with that. We can kind of work our way. We have another one. It's either that or take Grim Guardian. Underworld Coinsmith is pretty sweet as well, allowing us to gain life, and for 2 mana we can pay 1 life and each opponent loses 1 life. I think the best card here, though, is the Grim Guardian. It's definitely my favorite card amongst the black lower end stuff of the curve. So Aspect of Gorgon's pretty sweet. I think I'm going to grab that. It's a heroic enabler, and it is also an easy way to turn a small threat into something that is much more large and gruesome. So Aspect of Gorgon, +1/+3, gives Death Touch, and it has a tendency of just smashing. Cruel Feeding, we'll take that. It's playable for us. Maybe we won't even end up playing white. Maybe that foiled Deicide was just a sweet pick at the top that we could grab. Grim Guardian, okay with that. 2 Grim Guardians, 3 Blood Crazed Hoplites, Aspect of Gorgon, Leeches, and Cruel Feeding. If we have enough to support Mono Black, that would be awesome. I don't really think that that's going to be the case by the end of 3 packs here. However, we have managed to secure a lot of very playable cards in black. None of the cards that we've drafted so far are unplayable, by my standard at least. And multiple Grim Guardians is pretty sweet. Even Squelching Leeches. Squelching Leeches just has the potential of being such a massive card, no matter how late in the game it really is. Of course, being that you're playing mono black. The card can be extremely underwhelming on turn 4 if it's just a 2/2 for 4 mana. However, if you've played 4 swamps, it's pretty good. Here, Relic of Abandon's there. Returned Reveler is nothing to go home bragging about. Cedar Grove Dancer, pretty much the same thing for it. It's kind of like a filler card in green, and I've never really liked drafting this card. Harvest Guard, All Seeds is pretty sweet, and Constellation for green-whites. However, I think we just grab the Oresco Swiftclaw and make it so that it's one less tempo card that a white player could have. Phalanx Formation, I don't really know why the card's still here. The card's extremely powerful, especially with the strive cost of just 2. Being able to cast it for 3, strive for 2 with that pseudo multi-kicker, allowing you to trigger off multiple Blood Crazed Hoplites or anything like that. Here we have another Cruel Feeding or a Crone Mastiff. And by this point, I think white is somewhat open to the extent where good cards like a Crone Mastiff are still going around. So we'll grab that. We don't have to play a card like Squelching Leeches. It's a sweet card. We can always hope and pray that we just get past black card after black card and we get to play it. But I think that we'll end up not playing the Squelching Leeches and just go for white. Here, what am I more worried about? Probably countermand. I don't want my things to ever get countered. If my opponent is holding 4 mana open with blue, they're either going to flash in the 3/2 flyer, or they are going to try and either countermand something or just bluff us on a countermand, which does manipulate plays. Bluffing doesn't come across as strongly on Magic the Gathering Online as it does in real-life Magic. However, it is still a thing. If your opponent is leaving mana open, there's still the possibility, and knowing what potential cards they could play with the mana that they have shown you available is fairly important most times. It's an acquisition. It's a skill that if you acquire, it makes you a lot better at Limited. Being able to read bluffs and to know what your opponent has, just even based on the way that they have conducted their previous turns leading into the turn where they're leaving mana open. And we have a Plains. Playable. Potentially playable. Maybe we're not even going to play white. I think white-black is just fine. I like red-black even more. However, I'm just okay with playing a bunch of 2-drops and just securing them and keeping them on the table and turning sideways. But I'm pretty okay with the 3 heroic guys, almost kind of in a row. I think they were almost in a row. I think we did pass up one of them, though. Alright, so our next pack here, we have Hero's Bane, and Hero's Bane is just absurd. There's nothing really that we need to grab out of here. The Laguna Band Trailblazer, that can go. Somebody else can draft that, and I know I'm not going to get punished for that. A Crow and Mastiff, pretty much the same thing on Oresco Swiftclaw. Ritual of the Returned, I want this card to be more playable than it is, but unfortunately every time that I've kind of drafted this card, it never really works to to my benefit. I could see it being played in a green black dredge type deck in this format, but it really just depends on what you're dredging away and what your maximum value could be for this ritual returns. However, I think the best course of action here out of this pack is to hate draft the Hero's Bane, just because this card gets so out of hand so easily. Here we have Phalanx Formation, Underworld Coinsmith. We could just grab that card. It's pretty sweet. Swarmborn Giant is pretty backbreaking in green if your opponent plays turn 2 Hind, plays turn 3 Swarmborn Giant, and you don't really have a way of getting around it. So Underworld Coinsmith or Phalanx Formation. Well, I kind of tend to value Formation a little bit higher than the Coinsmith. I mean, it's still really sweet. The constellation effect that it has is just awesome, gaining life and all of that. However, I think I've won more games off of Phalanx Formation than anything else. And if nobody's in black-white, there's always the chance of this card wheeling. Cards that I would imagine would be gone are Golden Hind, Swarmborn Giant, maybe Blood Crazed Top Light, definitely Magma Spray and Flaunt of Fortunes by the time this comes back. But there's a pretty high likelihood of Underworld Coinsmith coming back to us, so Phalanx Formation it is. Here, Warwing Siren is still there. The removed Basara Tower Archer, which I've still no idea what that even means. Armament of Nyx is great as either a removal or a tack on to one of your enchantment creatures to make it big, fat, and really, really annoying. That's what I tend to see with Armament of Nyx, and anybody that's playing like blue-white playing that card is just really good. However, I think between the Armament of Nyx and the Rescue Swiftclaw, I think I just want to grab Armament. Or maybe Rescue Swiftclaw is a better call. We do have 8 creatures, one of which is not going to be played because we're going for white here. We could go for Swiftclaw, but I think Armament's just alright. It's pseudo removal. Sure, it may become awkward in a certain matchup where we can't play it, so we could run the risk of playing it main board and it being like a dead card for us. Again, we have the Armament, but this time we have Stonewise Fortifier, Humbler of Mortals, Renowned Weaver. Renowned Weaver is just so great for Constellation. People a lot of times forget with this card that it makes a enchantment creature token. So for that 2 mana, you can manipulate Constellation effects, like the 3-drop card in green that gives +1/+1 off Constellation. It's just really, really powerful. Kyora's Dismissal, however, this card, I just really, really love this card, and I don't get to draft it enough. There's no reason for us to draft it here, but between the Stonewise Fortifier and Armament of Nyx, I think Armament of Nyx is just fine again. And by no measure of merit or caliber do I deem myself a incredibly good limited player. There are a lot of people that are just better than me at limited. But gradually, as you play limited more and more, you tend to pick up on things. You tend to assimilate all of this knowledge and all of these little tricks, and you tend to get better at it over time, just kind of naturally, where you may have this kind of like, all right, well, I have to play through the situations, play through and lose a whole bunch to actually come out and learn a whole lot. But I think I have played enough limited to at least kind of know what I'm doing. Aspect of Gorgon, again, just fine. Another enabler for us. We'll hide the Gluttonous and Countermand. I wanted to see what else I hit, and Squelching Leeches was the only other thing. So Hoplites, Swiftclaw, Stone Fortifier, and that Deicide. I actually want to look that up between rounds and see how much it is. I'll get back to you guys about that, and about how much that Deicide is. Maybe it's not anything in terms of tickets. It very well could not be, but it's still a pretty sweet card. Here we have the Trailblazers, Flightline Cranes, which both of the cards are really good. Do I want a 1-drop or do I want a 5-drop? Probably the 5-drop. I'm not too crazy about taking the Laguna Band Trailblazer as I was ready to just kind of gun for the card at the beginning of the format and at the beginning of doing like Triple Journey or even just Journey-born Theros drafting. Supply Line Cranes I've learned is just a really good card. Eyeliner Rhetoric doesn't really have a place. Font of Return, however, is pretty sweet with Death Touch creatures. Like if you're playing a lot of the 1-drop Freeka's, what is it? Freeka's Mender? Is it Mender? I'm not sure. Freeka's Chosen? I think it's Chosen. The 1/1 for 1 black with Death Touch, and then you have Felhide Petrifier as well. That's in the format, and then you can play Font of Return with those cards. Card that I think should be hate drafted out of here: Aerial Formation, Evasion, Heroic Enabler. Laguna Band Trailblazer now. Might as well take it. Yeah, there we go. Coinsmith's here, so we have to take it. Out of these cards, not worried about Pensive Minotaur. Definitely not worried about Knowledge and Power. God Hunter Octopus, a little bit. Again, probably Counterman more than anything. Kura's Dismissal is here. We can either hate draft that or take Stonewise. Might as well take Stonewise. Flurry or Disciple, Flurry, Font. And sometimes whenever you just kind of get down to these last couple of picks, or even if there isn't really anything worth taking out of your colors, a good thing to do is just kind of look at the pack and just see things that you don't want other players to have. Just hate draft things out of there. Because maybe the pack is just full of red and green cards and none of them will serve you any benefit throughout the draft. Might as well take them so somebody else can't have them. Like Hero's Bane, I am completely content taking that card out of the pack at the beginning of that pack too. Just knowing that a green player does not have Hero's Bane and I don't have to worry about it on like turn 4 off of Hind is just fine by my standards. However, I could play Armament of Nyx on it, so I mean I do have things that could stop that Hero's Bane. However, I don't want to run the risk of me having an answer to it and then my opponent having like Consigned to Dust or something like that. Alright, so we start this pack out with quite easily one of the best rares, I want to say. Dictate of Heliod. Probably, I don't want to say that it's the best Dictate, because Dictate of Erebos is really, really strong. Dictate of Heliod, I would probably place them at kind of a level playing field. I just think this card definitely gets first picked out of here. It's just so strong. At 5 mana at an instant speed, flash it in, and just manipulate things. From here, things that I wouldn't mind picking up are the 2/1 flyer with Vigilance for 3. I wouldn't mind picking up one of those. Mortal Obstinacy is here, and it's either between Obstinacy or Johnny's Presence. I think both cards are great. Nixon Fusion's also here as well. It doesn't do us as much benefit as oh hey, I make my creature +2/+2 bigger. It does work with Coinsmith and Grim Guardian, and it interacts with both those cards. However, it's usually used as a -2/-2. Between Obstinacy and a Johnny's Presence, I think I just want to grab the Presence just because of this drive. From here, Trailblazer's there. Are we really cut on playing more creatures here? Possibly. I think Feast of Dreams is really, really strong, and we did see one at the start of this pack. However, I think taking a Dictate is much more powerful than taking a Feast. But Feast, probably one of the best removal spells in black. Or, well, I would definitely say best removal spell in black. One of the best removal spells in Journey. Just because it hits so many relevant things. Like, if your opponent's playing anything that's just enchanting their creatures, making them bigger or have some kind of buff or anything like that, you get to get rid of them. And the enchantment creatures, there's so many constellation type creatures in the format that you can just really get rid of anything. Aspect of Gorgon or Mortal Obstinacy. Now I've kind of come to the crossroads where what would we rather want? Would we rather want the Aspect of Gorgon or Mortal Obstinacy that could potentially get rid of enchantment creatures? I think right now I probably would place the Mortal Obstinacy a little bit higher just because we already have 2 Aspect of Gorgon. Here, well, we have another. Oh man, Deicide's still here. I still think we take Eagle of the Watch here over anything. We already have a Deicide anyway. Aegis of the Gods, Harvest Guard, Alsaids, Nyx Infusion, Cruel Feeding, Mortal Obstinacy again. Are all of our creatures playable? Yes, they are. Font of Vigor is definitely not going to get played. Deicide will more than likely get played. Armament of Nyx, probably not actually. Do we really need to take Aegis? Probably not. Cruel Feeding or Mortal Obstinacy. I still think Mortal Obstinacy, even though I really, really love Cruel Feeding in this format. Here, Trailblazer, Mastiff, Swiftclaw. I like Trailblazer over Mastiff and Swiftclaw. I probably no, because I think I still am just trying to be very, very aggressive with this deck. We have another Hoplite or Eagle of the Watch. We already have 3 Hoplites. Eagle of the Watch here to give us a little bit more oomph with our 3 drops. We want to kind of diversify our curve. We don't really want it to be like way too drop heavy, because then we get this awkward patch of like an entire handful of Bloodcrazed Hoplites, or you're drawing them way too consistently in late game where you'd rather draw something else. Johnny's Presence is never bad though. This Nautilus is just so great. I'm actually really surprised that it's still here. And Hind, too. Those are cards that just go away immediately out of packs. I'd like to get another Cruel Feeding out of this. But we'll see. We'll see how this goes. We'll see if we can get another Cruel Feeding, because it's definitely one of my favorite Heroic Enabler Strive cards. Next to a Johnny's Presence. I mean, a Johnny's Presence just to get an Indestructible was just a great combat trick to have. I'm not really as thrilled about the Fortifiers. Out of like all of the creatures that we have, like out of our 2 drops, Fortifier is probably the most underwhelming for me personally. But at 5 mana to prevent damage from a creature source is pretty alright. Usually it's really good. Like if you're in the situation where you have to block one creature over and over again, it's pretty awesome. Nyx Infusion, well, let's take it now. For the potential of using it as a removal spell. On turn 3, it does get rid of a opposing Eagle of the Watch. It does get rid of an Crone Mastiff on turn 4. And I love those plays. Like when my opponent taps out for a Crone Mastiff and I can just play a Nyx Infusion. It's just a great feeling. Here... Tormented Thoughts. I don't think I've ever played that card once. We'll take Oppressive Raise just because it is removal. Oh, well, almost pacifism. It's a downsided pacifism. Usually it's just really good. If you're playing against an aggressive deck, like an aggressive heroic deck, can't really afford to be paying 3 to attack with their creatures. If you yourself, you're putting creatures down and doing things, they really can't afford to do that. They can't afford to pay 3 to attack or block. They're just going to try and develop a board state at that point. And usually if they've overcommitted to one creature... Yeah, another Supply Line Crane, sweet. Usually if they've overcommitted to like one creature already, they're going to try and keep on paying that 3. And, I mean, even if you can generate blockers or something, it's pretty alright. Alright, so that is our drafting. How many planes did we get? I'm actually kind of curious about that. Yeah, it's 2 planes and a mountain, which is kind of funny that those got passed to us. Well, I guess I could have saw that coming just looking at our packs and just trying to figure that out based on when that land would come to us. But no, I'm gonna play these planes. I'll play them. So now time to actually put this deck together and see what we're going to play. Let's grab our creatures first. So Grim Guardians, our Hoplites. Oh, I took a Return Reveler. Alright. Hoplite. Squelching Leeches is not going to get played. Supply Line Cranes is just fine. Crone Mastiff. Dictate. Formations, well, those aren't creatures, but whatever. Eagle of the Watch. Let's leave the fortifiers out for now. Swiftclaw, Trailblazer. And now we figure out where we want to fit our other creatures. So Fortifier will end up making the cut to give us enough creatures that we can actually play on, well, on like turn 2. Oh, and Coinsmith as well. So 16. That's just perfect. 16 creatures. We could probably push 16 lands here. Even though we do have 3/5 drops, we could still kind of squeak a way through on playing that. Nyx Infusion. We won't play Nyx Infusion main. We will play Feast of Dreams. I think Feast of Dreams is much more feasible main board than Nyx Infusion is. Armament, nah, probably not. Obstinacies, Presence. And now we are going to have to cut some things. Deicide. Oppressive Raise. I don't think Oppressive Raise even. The sideboard cards that I like to look at are things like Nyx Infusion, Oppressive Raise. Maybe even Deicide's more of a sideboard card than anything like that. I mean, it is still just so relevant for so many things. But right now we do still have to cut some things out here. So the Presence is very good at allowing us to strive, which is great. However, one thing to look at is Mortal Obstinacy sticks around on a creature like Laguna Band Trailblazer on turn 2, where we can hit with it for a few turns before we have to crack it, or before we want to crack it. Do we need to play 16 creatures? Maybe not. Maybe we cut one of these fortifiers for another spell here. And then we're up to 14 lands. So maybe we cut one Obstinacy. Cruel Feeding, I just really like this card. It may just be personal bias, but this card just seems... It's gotten me out of a lot of awkward situations in combat math that I just really like the card. With the Rusco's Swiftclaw, Aspect of Gorgon's just great. Even though I just took out that Mortal Obstinacy, the Johnny's Presence is fairly strong still. And then we just cut one more thing to... Oh, we do also have the formations. Those are enablers for us. Okay, so maybe we will cut one Presence, and then we'll figure out post board what cards are more relevant for us and what cards are less relevant for us. And then we will adjust based on what we have. Also, Armament of Nyx. Like, if our opponent's playing, like, big fat creatures, like the Oppressive Raise and Armament of Nyx could be a little bit more relevant. However, I think this is great. 16 lands on this. I like to be really greedy with land bases, especially for this format. So there's our 40. 16 lands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 plains. Or 6 swamps, rather. Excuse me. Let's put these plains in here, just for fun. And actually, I want to take out one to put in another swamp, just so I see one more swamp in there. I just want a little bit more on the black end to hit our Blood Crazed Hoplites when we want to, and our Grim Guardians and whatnot. We really only need to see one source of black and one source of white, ideally, or actually, rather 2 sources of white, so we can use like a Johnny's Presence and formation at Strive and whatnot, and also Supply Line Cranes and Dictate of Heliod. But I think this is just fine. I'm really content with this. I'm really content with the way that the draft conducted itself, the cards that we picked up, especially cards like Dictate of Heliod. I hate drafting cards like Hero's Bane. And overall, the options that we have in terms of post-board maneuvers and manipulations in the non-creature spells that we're actually playing here. So thank you guys for joining me for this draft and deck building portion. If you guys check the description of this YouTube video, you will find a link to where you can find the rest of the event and me playing through my rounds. And I invite you guys to join me and check that out. On behalf of MTG Madness, peace out, guys.